Somewhere in a quiet house, right now, a dog is asleep on the floor. Its paws twitch, its breathing quickens, a soft whimper escapes its throat, and then, just as suddenly, stillness returns. We've all seen it. We've all smiled at it. But what if that isn't what's happening at all? What if, in that fragile, twitching moment, a dog isn't running through some invented fantasy, but reliving something real? A walk, a voice, a face it knows better than almost anything else in the world. What if dogs dream about us? For centuries, this question sat outside the reach of science, dismissed as sentimental, unanswerable, the kind of thing only a dog owner would ask. But over the last few decades, something has changed. Neuroscientists studying sleep, memory, and animal cognition, as we'll see, may be far stranger and far older than anyone expected. To understand what's happening inside a dreaming dog, we first have to go somewhere unexpected, a sleep laboratory, decades ago, filled not with dogs, but with rats. In the early 2000s, neuroscientist Matthew Wilson and his team at MIT recorded the brain activity of rats as they ran through a maze. Certain neurons fired in specific patterns, a kind of internal map of the maze etched into the hippocampus, the brain's memory center. Then the rats went to sleep, and the same neurons fired again, in the same sequence, as if the rats were running the maze all over again, this time only in their minds.
It was one of the first hard pieces of evidence that mammals don't just experience the world while awake, they replay it while asleep. Memory isn't simply stored, it's rehearsed, reorganized, relived. Dogs share the same basic sleep architecture as rats, and as humans. They cycle through slow wave sleep and REM sleep, the stage most associated with vivid dreaming in humans. Their brains show the same bursts of rapid eye movement, the same twitching muscles only barely restrained by a mechanism in the brainstem that, in most animals, keeps the body from acting out what the mind is imagining. This is where it gets interesting, because that twitching we find so endearing, the little sprinting paws, the muffled barks, may not be random noise. It may be the visible edge of memory in motion. But here's the first mystery. Knowing that a dog's brain replays memories during sleep is not the same as knowing what those memories are. A rat's maze is simple, a dog's life is not. So scientists asked a harder question. If dogs dream about their day, what exactly fills their day? For most dogs, the answer is strikingly consistent. Meals, walks, play, and overwhelmingly, contact with their owner. In studies of domestic dog behavior, researchers have found that dogs orient their attention toward their human caregivers far more than toward other dogs, even in multi-dog households. They track our movements, they monitor our faces, they wait by doors, they follow us room to room, not out of simple obedience, but because, behaviorally, we have become their primary point of reference in the world. If the hippocampus is replaying the most emotionally significant, most frequently repeated experiences of the day, and if for most dogs we are the emotional center of that day, then the mathematics of memory alone makes it plausible that dogs dream about their owners more than almost anything else. Plausible, not proven, and that distinction matters because no instrument yet exists that can extract the actual content of a dream from a sleeping brain, not a human's and certainly not a dog's. We can see that the machinery of memory replay is active, we cannot yet read the footage. Which brings us to the second mystery, and this one goes back much further than any sleep lab. It goes back roughly 15,000 years to the domestication of the wolf. Wolves are intensely social, but their social world is built around the pack, a self-contained unit of kin and hierarchy. Humans were, for a long time, outsiders to that world, and yet somewhere in the deep past, a lineage of wolves began tolerating, then approaching, then living alongside us. Over thousands of generations, something extraordinary happened to their brains and behavior. They didn't just become tamer, they became attached to us in ways their wild ancestors never were toward any other species. In 2015, a study led by Japanese researcher Takefumi Kikusui found something remarkable. When dogs and their owners gazed into each other's eyes, both species showed a rise in oxytocin,
the hormone associated with bonding, trust, and maternal attachment. Wolves raised by humans, even hand-reared from puppies, did not show the same effect. The gaze that light up a dog's nervous system with the chemistry of connection simply didn't do the same thing to a wolf.
Somewhere in domestication, dogs seem to have rewired an ancient survival system, one originally built for parent and offspring, and aimed it at us. That's not affection in the way we casually use the word. That's neurochemistry. That's biology quietly rewritten by thousands of years of living beside a different species. And it gets stranger. In the early 2000s, comparative psychologist Joseph Topal and his colleagues in Hungary adapted a famous experiment originally designed to study human infants, the strange situation, used to measure attachment between babies and caregivers. When they ran a version of it with dogs and their owners, the results were startling. Dogs showed the hallmarks of genuine attachment, seeking proximity to their owner, becoming distressed when separated, and crucially, using their owner's presence as a secure base from which to explore an unfamiliar room. Wolves raised identically by humans did not show this same pattern. In other words, dogs don't just tolerate us. Structurally, psychologically, some researchers argue their brains treat us the way a child's brain treats a parent. There's a further layer to this that most people never hear about. Attachment isn't uniform across all dogs. Studies on separation-related distress have found that cortisol, the body's primary stress hormone, spikes measurably in many dogs left alone and drops again on reunion with their owner, a physiological signature that mirrors what researchers see in young children separated from a parent. The intensity varies.
Some breeds, shaped by centuries of working closely alongside humans, herding dogs, retrievers bred for constant handler feedback, appear to show this pattern more strongly than breeds developed for independent work, like certain guarding or scent hound lineages bred to operate at a distance from people. Even within the same species, in other words, evolution has dialed the strength of this human-focused bond up or down, depending on the job we once needed a dog to do. That detail matters because it hints that the dreaming about the owner question probably doesn't have one single answer. A border collie bred for generations to watch a handler's every gesture may carry a very different emotional map of its day than a hound bred to track a scent alone for miles. If dreams echo what the waking brain prioritizes, then somewhere out there, different dogs may be replaying entirely different versions of what matters most. Now hold that thought and go back to the sleeping dog on the floor. If waking attachment can rewire hormonal systems, and if sleep is the stage where the day's most emotionally weighted experiences get replayed and consolidated, then the twitching paws, the soft whimpers, the barely audible sounds a dog makes in the depths of REM sleep may not just be echoes of a walk or a squirrel. They may be echoes of the single relationship evolution seems to have built dogs, uniquely among animals, to prioritize. This is usually the moment dog owners lean in a little closer to the screen, because almost everyone watching has seen this. The dog asleep at the foot of the bed, paws twitching, tail giving one soft involuntary thump, as if somewhere inside that unconscious mind, you just walked back into the room. We can't prove that's what's happening.
But we can now say, with real scientific grounding, that it would be strange if it weren't at least sometimes true. If any of this is resonating with you, if you've ever looked at your own dog twitching in its sleep and wondered what was really going on in there, this is exactly the kind of mystery this channel exists to explore. Every video digs one layer deeper into the hidden architecture of the animal mind. If you want to keep following this investigation, subscribing means you won't miss where it goes next. Because there's still a piece of this puzzle we haven't touched. Not what dogs dream about, but what happens to the human on the other side of that bond. Some researchers studying the human-dog relationship have proposed that our attachment to dogs activates circuitry strikingly similar to parental caregiving, the same oxytocin loop running in both directions. If that's true, then what we're looking at in a sleeping dog's twitching paws isn't a one-way curiosity. It may be one half of a feedback loop that has been quietly shaping both species for thousands of years, dogs adapting to read us,
and us, in turn, adapting to be read. And here is the part that should genuinely unsettle you in the best possible way. We still don't know how much of a dog's inner world resembles ours. We don't know if a dream to a dog has anything like the vivid, narrative quality it has for us, or something entirely different. A rush of scent memory, perhaps, given that a dog's olfactory bulb is proportionally far larger than a human's, and smell, not sight, may be the true language of a dog's inner life. Perhaps dogs don't dream in pictures of our faces at all.
Perhaps they dream in something closer to our scent, our footsteps, the particular sound of a door we open every evening. We don't know. And that unknown is not a failure of science, it's an invitation. Because if a 15,000-year-old bond can rewire hormones, reshape brain circuitry, and quite possibly reach into the private theater of sleep itself, then the question we opened with was never really about dreaming at all. It was about how far this bond actually goes, and how much of what we call just a dog might be one of the most extraordinary relationships found anywhere in nature. And if that's true, it raises an even stranger question, one we haven't answered yet. If dogs have been quietly rewired by us over thousands of years, what exactly has living beside them done to us? Maybe the answer starts with something as small as a walk you barely remember taking, the kind that felt routine to you, but that for the animal beside you may have been written into memory with the weight of something sacred. That's where we go next.